good resource and it's called the Beacon. And she'll share more about it, but we're just so grateful that you're here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Use the microphone. No,
Pretty
you want
loud.
this to?
It's hard to hear a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell me, so is this volume okay? Can you all hear me? Oh, sometimes mics are like, that's clunky for me, so I tend to, but if at any point you can't hear me, just be like, hey, can't hear you. Yeah, so I'm Casey. I am a fashion writer, consultant, and founder of the Peahen, where I write about ethical and sustainable brands to try to like bring some awareness to the industry. So today I'm here to share my story and to tell you some real world approaches you can take to ethical fashion. So when you think of fashion, you may think of images like this, right? So things you might aspire to buy from the runway. Or this, places you might dream of shopping. Both of these images portray luxury, fantasy, aspiration. At least that's what I had in mind when I decided I wanted to work in fashion. Totally bought into this dream, and it turned out I had a knack for it too. So I pursued it diligently by going to Milan, studying fashion journalism and merchandising, and then I wrote for a few publications in college. So I made an official leap and moved to Manhattan to work for a fashion marketing firm. And my reality when I did this looked more like that. And I got really burnt out from the industry and I was unhappy. So eventually what do you do when you're unhappy? You start to kind of like question and pick apart things. But what I discovered when I tried to dig deeper in fashion was I couldn't find any credible information about the brands I was representing or working for. And if I tried to kind of like poke holes in it, they just weren't answering my questions. And it turns out there was a reason for this evasiveness. Behind the scenes in fashion, they were covering up things like massive waste and exploitation of garment workers. And the result was this. What you're looking at is one of the worst industrial disasters in history. When the Rana Plaza building collapsed in Bangladesh in 2013, it killed over 1,000 people and 2,500 others were injured. So 3 years ago, this is when the world started waking up to what was going on behind the scenes in fashion and when I started to transform too. But the good news is, this can change. And a lot of the change is already starting to happen now with consumers demanding more information about their clothes. And a really good example of that is you all here, right? You're here to shop for fair trade fashion. And that's awesome. But there's definitely more to be done. So through my work investigating fashion, writing about the industry, I've kind of discovered a few simple and effective solutions that everyone can take. But before I tell you about them, I want to start by asking about your habits to illustrate the point. So what I would ask by show of hands is if you were to go out just for an average daily lunch, would you choose something from McDonald's that would run you like $5 or $6? Or something that's a little bit healthier? This is actually from a local chain called True Foods. That might be anywhere from like $12 to $20 by show of hands. Left or right? Sorry. Left? Anyone?
I will admit it. I'll probably
Okay. You know, everyone has different tastes.
It's so true.
Right? Okay. Alright, so the ladies in the room, I would pose the same question here, right? If I told you this handbag on the left is made by Celine, and it retails for upwards of $2,000, would you pick that? Or a similar version from Zara for $60? Left? Right. Okay. So it seems like we're willing to spend a little bit more on our food, but not necessarily on our fashion. So why is that? That's because food is ahead of fashion in this transformative revolution. And there's more information about our food than ever before, so we're willing to spend a little bit more money because our personal health is at stake. We don't do this for fashion because there's not as much information about the industry and there's no personal incentive for us to buy the more expensive and oftentimes the more ethical option. Right now, fast fashion is fast food. It's empty calories that don't nourish us or make us feel full. And this matters because fashion is the second largest polluting industry after big oil, and it employs a sixth of the world's population. So we're talking about an industry that has to move to a more sustainable model. fashion because the industry is trying to meet this heightened consumer demand with responsible supply and it doesn't really know how. But second, it's totally easy to get overwhelmed. There's a phenomenon that makes you want to kind of hide under a rock the more information you learn, and it's ethical living burnout. Now, I've talked to some of my fellow writers and advocates of the industry, and this is a really, really real phenomenon. For me, it kind of manifested as like a main course of antisocial behavior. I'm like, I don't want to see anyone like totally cynical, and I don't want this to happen to you, right? So I want to tell you about a few simple, effective, easy solutions that everyone can take. All right, so can anyone tell me what this image traditionally represents? Yeah, reduce, reuse, recycle. Okay, cool. I'm glad you recognize it. This model I want to flip on its head and propose something more fashion. So 3 steps: reflect, reveal, and reform. And there's 2 things you can do in each of these categories to help. So let's start with reflection. The first thing you can do is figure out what you value most. There's so many factors to consider when it comes to fashion, and sometimes they can be at odds with each other. So a really good example of this is if you support animal rights, you tend to prefer synthetic materials to leather hides or furs, but synthetic materials can be more polluting to the environment, so you kind of have to pick animal rights or environment, which one? It's important to start small so you can kind of like focus in on those and you don't experience the ethical living burnout that happened to me. Things you can consider are like human rights, sustainability, fair trade, made in the USA, or local production, just to name a few. So the second part of reflection is slowing down. Take some time here to really observe your patterns, and you might even go on a shopping hiatus like I did. Some things that really helped me were like keeping a list in my back pocket, so if I wanted something, instead of just like impulse buying it, I would have a running list. And what I would discover is there might be 10 or 20 things on that, and I only bought one instead of buying it all. So reducing the demand. You can also do things like unfollowing or unsubscribing from retail emails or even people that might like tempt you on social media. Use this time also to revisit your closet. Figure out what you really love and challenge yourself to build a wardrobe from what you might already own. You can start by asking yourself things like, what's the test of time in your wardrobe? Are there certain like colors that you might gravitate towards or styles? When I did this, for instance, I learned that I really love classic pieces and classic silhouettes, but I like to mix them with little pieces of vintage and like funky jewelry. So when you do this, you'll naturally begin to desire less and waste less. And it makes the whole process easier. All right, on to review. What you can do here is start questioning more, and a good way to do this is start reading about fashion. So the same way you pick up your morning news or you might read a food article, you can read about fashion too. So this book, called The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan, really started the transformative movement around our food back when it was written, and it's kind of the reason why right now we might be buying local food, or we might be choosing like kale chips instead of potato chips. But you might be less familiar with this book by Elizabeth Klein, called Overdressed: The Shockingly High Cost of Cheap Fashion. Essentially, it does the same thing that Michael Pollan did for food for our clothes. And you could try picking this up kind of as a primer and a deeper dive into some of the topics that I'm introducing today. When you start to read about fashion and question it more, you can use this newfound knowledge to then go and talk to the brands you are wearing now. Ask them about their ethical practices, and if they're worth their salt, they should be able to answer you. But keep in mind that it doesn't have to be perfect, right? They just need to show you signs of progress and transparency. And if they don't respond to you, or you decide that they don't meet the values that you kind of established beforehand, you can choose to just not buy from them anymore. So the next thing you can do in revealing things to peel back the layers on your clothes is to learn to read your label, right? So we know how to do this for our food. We know things like high sugar content, high trans fats, So we have to get better about reading our labels. You can start to choose things that are natural, like organic hemp and cotton, as opposed to synthetics that come from petrochemicals, like nylon or polyester, because they're more polluting to the environment. Even more points if you choose a fabric that's newer generation called tencel. So tencel's really cool because it's manufactured in a closed loop. It's a byproduct of tree pulp, and the only thing that comes out of that process is water and like the rest, some like residual tree pulp. Really, really cool. So also you can like pick up your clothes, touch and feel them, kind of tug at the seams of the fabric, see if they're quality, see if they'll hold up to your daily lifestyle, and account for your local weather, what you're going to be doing in the daytime. So I think in Austin, like cotton year round is awesome. It's hot here. But if you do tend to choose cotton, make sure it's organic. Cotton already is really, really water intensive. So choosing organic just means you're cutting out the pesticides and the chemicals involved in that process. A label that you can look for is called GOTS, G-O-T-S. Stands for the Global Organic Textile Standard, and it's kind of like a bucket term for all of the other organic standards out there. So while I have us on the subject of labels, I also want to specifically address fair trade labels because that's what we're all shopping for today, right? So I like to call this the soup of fair trade labels. It's really confusing. I don't know how you pick it up and you're like, I don't know what this really means. Essentially, they all aim at the same thing, right? They reflect that a business or a company is respecting workers' rights in developing nations, and that they're trying to partner with them to champion fair international trade standards. The key differences here is that the ones on the left, these are fair trade certifications, and the ones on the right are fair trade member organizations. And the key difference is that the first three are more for like simple products that can be traced back to the farm level. So those are going to be things that you might find in a Compassion Cafe: chocolates, coffees, bananas, things like that. And you're not going to necessarily find them on your hang tag of your clothing. Now the exception here is cotton. Cotton can be traced back to the farm level, so you can see one of these standards on a cotton t-shirt. Other products like jewelry, blended textiles, home goods can still be fair trade. They're just not a system in place to monitor their entire supply chain because it's very complex. So that's where member organizations come into play. And you can find the member organizations, the FTF and the WFTO, on a brand's website or like their printed paper materials. But keep in mind, all 5 of these really expensive to attain. So if you're dealing with a smaller brand, try talking to them, try reading their materials and things, because you don't want this to be like a barrier to entry, right? Because they might be on the way to getting a fair trade label, but they just can't afford it now, and you don't want to discredit the wonderful work that they're doing. So, on to reformation. Now that I've dropped all this awesome knowledge on you, you can start to take action, right? So there's 3 things you can do. First, buy fewer, better things. So this is a tagline of a brand that I really love and respect, and it kind of goes with that whole like minimalistic trend that's super popular right now. I'm not saying that has to be your style, right? You don't have to be super minimalistic, but you can apply this mantra to your daily life. And what you might find is you're spending a little bit more money, right, up front, but it's going to save you money in the long run and create less demand. So next you can buy vintage or secondhand. And this is my favorite for Austin because we have such great access to vintage. So if you need tips on like where to go for it, cut out the demand altogether by buying secondhand. Lastly, start to care for your clothes. And this one's tricky. I have a guide on my website. It's called Green or Clean. It's 2 parts. So if you want to get more into the weeds on how to ethically clean your clothes and when to know when to dry clean them and things like that, it's on my website. So the last step in reforming your fashion is to share what you learn. Now, this one's tough because everyone faces ethical decisions every single day, right? And you're not going to help the cause by like guilting or shaming your friends into ethical shopping. But that doesn't mean that you have to stay silent about it. So try sharing the negative stories that you learn about and you read thoughtfully and mindfully, but also shed some light on the positive brands and the stories that you hear are positive. everyone needs clothes. They're just like food in that they're uniting and we can tell a better story with them. But the reality is our heightened demand for fashion has led the system down an unsustainable path. So by purchasing with more thought, buying according to these ethics and values that are right by you can get us back to a system that is better for people and planet. So by coming out to Artreach today, like definitely go talk to all the vendors out here, learn from them, hear about what they're doing, like it's a great first step. And if you're interested in learning more, I have some really great resources. Sign up for my emails. Like I promise they're not spammy. I send them maybe like once a month. So I'll share my articles and things that I'm writing with you and other things from the writers that I collaborate with. You can check them out too. The True Cost documentary is really great. It's on Netflix if you have it. I have a whole shopping page on my website, so it's organized by brands. So you can say, oh, I might need athletic wear, or oh, I might want something dressier. It's kind of organized by ethical brands that way to make it really easy for you. And investigation, all three of these are either websites or apps that you can use to say like, oh, I'm at the mall right now and I want to know if J. Crew is ethical. And so you can like plug it in and read about that. And then follow me on social media. Yeah. And you can tweet or anything. I don't know if you're active on social media with slow down my clothes and I'll answer you. Yeah. So questions? Don't be shy.
Any advice for someone that wants to get into the fair trade fashion industry?
Like you're thinking of starting a business?
No, like my daughter's studying fashion merchandising in college. It's advice for her, not
Yeah.
for me.
I mean, start reading, right? Like, tell her to join some type of organization. So for me, I think joining the Ethical Writing Coalition and the Ethical Blogger Network have been the most eye-opening things because I'm around so many other people who are farther along in the industry than me, and I can just go to them and start asking questions about really complex topics, and they know so much more. So if she can align herself with, community organizations or things like that, learning from people is the best way to start. Yeah. Anyone else? Time to shop, right? Thank you so much.